You gotta do is make sure the dimmers are all on. So these constant current modules are what controls power to the LED lights, and we keep them off during the week so the fans don't keep running. So we make sure we turn both of those on. There's that one in there, and there are a few in here. I usually leave those on from Saturday to Sunday, but I turn them on before any event and I turn them off after Sunday. So if that's concerned, you just start by hitting the power button. That'll take a minute or two to boot up. So we start by bringing up the master fader. We try and keep that always down, and that brings up all of those lights. The house lights are controlled by a separate panel down there that we know where that is. But they're also on this fader right here. There are only a few faders in here that I use. I'm just gonna bring out the house lights the manual way because they're on this queue right now. But so the stage lights are these two, Cat 1 and 2. Cat 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all these ones. They're labeled choirs 3 and 4. And that brings up and down the lights on the choir. 1 and 2 brings up the lights on the stage. And then this one is the house. Sometimes we use the under balcony, which is this one. They're all labeled, so under balcony. This one is kind of important. It's a video inhibitor. So say you have all the choir and stage lights on. This one will only bring down those lights, but not mess with the LED lights, like if we brought down the master fader.
Gotcha.
Eric has that one for video. That's new. I think that's all you need to know about this section. So when this comes up, you're going to see generally Eric's cue list. Eric and I do cues differently. I think my way is simpler, so that's what I'm going to teach. But Eric has some cues that you guys should know. Unless he changes things regularly, cue 5 is an entry cue. So it's just got some blue lights on the stage.
So what do we push to get to Q5?
Go to Q and then the number. So in this case, Q 100 is always the sermon. Yeah, those are the regular ones. Q 100 is always the sermon. Q 5, just go to Q 5 and then hit enter is entry. I try to keep Q 200 as my classic look. For classic services, you just bring up Q 200, bring up the choir lights, bring up the stage lights, Cats 1 through 4, and then you're solid. I like to leave the choir lights down, and then as soon as Michael stands the choir for the call to worship, I bring the choir lights up. It's a small thing, it's not required, but that's what I like to do. Helps, I don't know, keep it not as hot in here even a little bit. So that's literally all you need to do is that for classic. For classic especially, we're trying to keep warmer colors, so reds, oranges, yellows, because the sanctuary got significantly cooler in the renovations with all the grays rather than all the golds, and so we're kind of compensating for that a little bit with the classic look.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about how to build a modern service cue. So in this case, I like to start with what Eric did last. So Eric's got all the cues labeled by the last time he was here. So the first song was Amazing Grace. Probably this is Amazing Grace. And as you can see on the stage, there's LEDs all around. And we'll worry about the spots later. So we'll take that. What I like to do is I like to record a full show and a set of 10. So in this case, we'll say 250, 251, 252, etc. So we're going to say entries, Q5. And so I'm going to say when people are walking in, I want that to be Q250. So I go record, Q250, enter. And then it's helpful to label it. So there's a button that says label and note down here. I would hit label. And then I type in on this keyboard over here. We'll call it entry. Great, there we go. So now we want to look at the first song. So we go over to Pro Presenter and we see the way I like to light it is I just have one cue for each song based on their background. So this background is pink. So we'll go to cue 11.
Oh, that is so red.
Yes, but red doesn't look good in the sanctuary very
Okay.
much. You can look at, I'll make the wall lights and the stage lights red. Look how dramatic that is. So unless you're doing actual Amazing Grace or a communion song, that's a little too much.
Okay.
So we're
So pink it is.
Yeah. So pink will go really well with that. So we'll click design. Design are the backlights, the wash that hits the back of the musicians on the stage. I will make those pink. We'll hit clear, so that we're not selecting multiple things at once. And then we go. So the ones I'd change are the design lights, the wall lights, the organ lights, and the LED lights.
So point to which one's which.
So
Design
the
lights
design lights.
are those guys, and
The wall lights are the backwash behind the organ
Okay.
pipes, so I'd make that one pink. The organ lights, we have enough lights. When you do a look, you can have two different colors. So I'd say I'd make the wall and the design lights pink, and I'd make the organ lights probably purple, maybe blue or indigo, something like that. I think that would work really well, especially if you compare it with what's on Pro Presenter. I think that those match pretty well. They're not plugged in right now. I don't know how long we'll leave them, but the LED strip lights are lighting the gray walls. Those ones are LEDs.
oh, gotcha.
I would make those. I would probably make those purple then. I would
Okay.
or indigo. I would match that. And so
Okay.
that we would record cue 251. So I know my opening cue is the one right after entry. I'd label it Your Love
This
Me.
keyboard.
Yeah.
Did you press label? Where did you press to change the label?
Label note, this
Oh,
button
yeah.
right here.
Not that one. Label note.
And then every time you do something, you hit clear so you don't end up doing something additional
Okay.
to that.
Gotcha. Let's do another one.
So we would go ahead. It's up to you how many cues you make. At this point, when the next thing happens, when the welcome happens, I'll just go to cue 100. Because I know that's the sermon look, I'll just go straight to that one. And then I get prepared for Cornerstone, which is the next one. So I would make that. So we'll go to cue 251, and we will build a cue for this, and we'll call it 252. So Cornerstone's got this green and blue. So I would make the organ probably green, the wall light blue, maybe cyan, light blue. We'll make the design light blue. The LEDs I'd probably make green. No effect right now. That's kind of our look.
Nice.
And then we just record cue 252, label Cornerstone. And then same with Here Is in Heaven. That's purple. So in this case, we'd probably make,
Wait, didn't you want to go clear first?
yes, you're right. I think I did, because,
Oh.
but if I didn't, yeah. So sometimes you can select them both at once. Wall and purple, we can make the same color. Or wall and design, organ, light blue. Yeah, that's a pretty good look. I like to start out with lighter colors, so like cyan, green, and then kind of descend into darker colors like purple or darker blue. That's what I like to do. And so we record this as 253.
So it's record 253.
Record cue 253.
Oh, record cue.
Cue 253. Enter. And there's that. Label it.
Label.
Here Is in Heaven. There we go. Now sometimes it's helpful because the way you would run this is during the welcome you would say go to cue 252, and that way you could just hit enter when they start doing it. It's on like a 5-second timer, and so sometimes I'll hit the enter button and then I'll hit the slides next.
Oh, gotcha.
That way they land at the same time.
Gotcha.
Let's see. And so sometimes it's helpful because if we're running this song and the next song is Cornerstone, or Here is in Heaven, so if we're on Cornerstone, I'll hit go, go goes to the next one in order. 253, and then I'll hit the slide for 253, and then they're there. And so it might be helpful to make 254 the sermon look, since the thing after this is the announcement, so sometimes I'll do that. So I'll go to Q100, which is our sermon look, and then we record Q254. We'll label it announcements. And then we have our offering song. The way I always do it relative to the offering song. So number 1 is the opening song, and number 5 is always the offering song. That makes it easy for me to remember. That's my naming scheme. You can do it however you want. So we'll make a cue with this. And this one, maybe we'll make the organ cyan, wall and design blue. The blue is a little too much, maybe light blue. There's not enough contrast, I don't think. So maybe we'll make the organ pink. That'd be interesting enough for, and then if you have a large choir, the back 2 rows get hit by the organ light. So if you make it too bright, it blinds them. So don't do that.
Okay.
They're not just complaining. It actually is painful.
Okay.
So don't make it too bright.
Okay.
If you're, yeah.
Or there's already dim it.
So when you select something like organ, you hit enter. You can make it brighter, dimmer, brighter, dimmer.
Okay.
You could select multiple, do the same thing. Just like everything, make it brighter, dimmer, brighter, dimmer. I usually run the wall at full. Organ, I think we run at like 20 or 30. Mm-hmm. To figure out where you're at, there's 2 lists. These are your cues, your PSD, and then live table patched shows your individual lights. So when I select the wall lights and hit enter, it selects 215 through 220. Those are the lights that are on the back row. Gotcha. And so you can see their intensity.
Okay.
When it comes to organ lights, clear, organ lights, enter. Yeah, we usually run that about 20 or so. And then design lights. Let's see. Let's finish building this cue list, and then we'll talk about some other things. So we have 250. Yeah, this is our 255. Label. What is this? Life defined. And then we'll make our sermon look Q56. Nope, that's Q10. We'll label it sermon. And then tremble. And for the sake of not taking up any more time, we won't make a new cue. We'll just make it the same as 255. Record to 257. Tremble. Don't have to spell it, right? You're the only one who sees it.
Right, okay.
And so back and go directly between them in order.
Gotcha.
So the idea is you set up the lights. If you're the slides person, you just set up the lights so that the slides person could just hit go over the course of the whole sermon.
All right.
And that's all they have to think about. Let me think. Okay, that's the simple. This is how you build a cue list. Now let's talk about how you would kind of set the stage. So if we go back to 251, you can see there's individual lights hitting individual spots on the stage. So those are your design lights. I'll bring them up and bring them down for you. Yeah, those are those lights. And so if you want to move one of them, say the drummer moved over a few feet or something like that, you would go over to live table patched, and you see these are the numbers
Where
of those
was live
lights.
table patched again?
Right next to this. So here's
Okay.
your two tabs.
Okay.
And so it's left to right. So 226 is on the far left, 228, 229, 230, 231, 232.
Okay.
Those are in order.
Mm-hmm.
So say you want to affect the drum light. The drum light, I think, is 234 because that's the furthest one away. So you literally just type 234. You don't even have to hit channel or anything like that. Hit enter and you have it selected. Yep, that's our drum light. So you can bring it up, bring it down, and if you want to move it, you go to focus, And then you have your pan and tilt controls right here. And so if you want to pan it, that rotates it, and then tilt goes up and down. And you can see on the stage, it's moving the light. You put it wherever you want it. And that's how you would do it. It's kind of hard to do in the daytime, but you get the hang of it eventually.
Gotcha.
The goal is to hit each musician, the back of their head with one of these lights so that it works well. The one I haven't mentioned, the one that's purple that's hitting the stage, is the platinum light. We're supposed to have 2 that work. We just have 1 that work. It mainly focuses on the drums right now, so we don't change it very much. But that's what that light is.
Okay.
Let's see. That's important because you're gonna want to land them all while everybody's setting up, so that each time you change, like, so if I were, okay, that's important. So now that I've moved where the drum light is, I need to save that. So you can either record over it, record cue 251, and it'll ask you, please confirm, and you say yes, because the cue already exists. Or you can hit update cue. The
Where was the
update
update button?
and then the cue button, and then you hit enter, and that updates it.
Okay.
The danger, you need to be very careful because, like right now, one of these cues had built in the stage lights. So even though these lights aren't up, because they're in a queue, they're up on stage. So if you, say for example, you record all the cues where everything's dark, but one time you update the cue, or you record over it while you've got these lights up, then when that happens, those lights are gonna come up. And so if you're running a dark show, you gotta be careful that can happen.
Gotcha.
If the lights are up and this is down, it's because they're part of a queue. These are Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3, and Cat 4 from the back to the front. And Cat 5, but we don't have any tungsten on Cat 5 anymore. And so if you want to change those, it's Group 1 with
Where's
Cat
group?
1. So you'd select Group 1, enter, and then that's the Cat 1 lights. Same with
Gotcha.
Cat 2, you bring them up and bring them down.
Okay.
Cat 3 and 4. You can just say Group 3 plus Group 4, but you can't say Group 3 plus 4 because I think it'll just do Channel 4. If for some reason this doesn't work, I don't know why you need to know this, but I think Group 50 is the design lights, the ones hitting the back of the stage. Group 25 is the wall lights, and Group 41 is the organ lights.
Okay.
Those are the numbers. We used to do that before Eric put in this magic sheet, is literally what it's called.
Cool.
All right, if you want to change the color of a
I guess
light.
I'll just use the magic sheet.
Yeah, if you want to change the color of a light without using this, if you want to make it an original color, I mean, you could go to the whole group. You could select Group 50 or click on Design, or you would go to 234, which is that corner drum light we had selected. And instead of being on Focus up here, we go to Color. Color, you have red, green, and blue. You can mix it, and it'll change the color of the light. Or if you hit color another time, it'll be hue saturation. You can switch between the two. I prefer hue saturation. It gets you a whole host of options. Yeah, so you can do whatever you want. These are just the ones Eric put in. Same with focus. No, focus only has one setting, which is good. Yeah, 234, that's channel 234. Yeah, there's only one setting for focus.
Cool.
Okay, I think that's everything but spots. And then I could talk about spots. So when it comes to the spots, we have 8 moving lights. Originally you used to have to kind of select each group and turn them on. Eric has it so it's one button to turn them on and it's lamps on. Then you just click it and it turns on each one of them. Sometimes it doesn't get all of them and you have to go back in individually. But the lights that controls are the Mac 500s, which are the 4 spotlights on Cat 2 and Cat 3. I'll move them around so you can see which ones those are. They have a little bit of a green tint to them, so Eric put some pink gel over it, and that's helped.
Okay.
And then the other ones that controls are the Mac 600s, which are on Cat 4 and 5. Those are as front 600 and back 600. You can hit enter again. You can see which ones those are. So it looks like, yeah, they all turned on. If they didn't all turn on, sometimes they don't. You'd select, say, back 600. You'd bring it up. Oh, it's not turning up. You go to about, lamp controls, lamp power on, and you would have to hit it twice to turn it on. But otherwise, the lamps on button should work.
What did you just hit it twice? What button did you use to hit it twice?
If you select to go to about, you just click lamp power on.
Oh, you did
would
it.
Click it
Actually
again.
click that to it,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But it's already on.
Okay.
So you do that. So when you're building these cues, the Mac 600s can be used for color. I don't even turn them on for the classic service, but I do for the modern. And so you just build those into your color cues. So if for your Love Awakens, you might add a red, and then that would be a backlight on a couple people and kind of light the stage. In this particular case, they're lighting the choir from Concordia.
Mm-hmm.
They make that sound. I think that's just because they're old. A couple of them. Eric, I think, fixed one of them, so it didn't do that, but the other one's still good. Mac 500s, same thing. You turn them on and off. The way to remember is you go to Mac 500s, you go to Live 2.0 patch, and you see, oh, that's 201 through 204. And then the Mac 600s are 211 through 214. So if I wanted to set one, you would clear, you'd select 201, enter. I bring it up, bring it down, I see, oh, that's that one in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And then you use pan and tilt and put it wherever you want. It's kind of hard to tell in the day. One of the things I use is I look where the shadow is. So I can see right now the circle is on the candle, but it's not entirely. And so I move it up. I can see, okay, now the top of the candle's shadow is visible. I know it's being lit by the light. There are a few more things with that. You can adjust the color. Just be careful with that. And then, what is it? Form. You can open the iris, so you can make it wider or
Yeah,
narrower.
that's nice.
There's gobos. There are gobos, so you can make patterns. And then shutter doesn't do anything. So that's how to do that. It's kind of the same thing with the front and back 600s. Those, again, you just have to be careful, because if you make a cue where the spots are up and then you record a new cue, then you might accidentally leave them up or something like that. What Eric likes to do is anytime there's a solo, he'll bring up a spot on them, bring down a spot on them when they're done singing, or bring up spots on everybody singing for modern. It's much more visible in the 5 o'clock service than the 11:11. So for the 11:11, I just bring the stage lights all the way up, but I still have the spots from Eric's cues. If Eric's not in, I sometimes will use the spots. It just depends on how rushed everything is, because it takes a little bit of concentration to set the focus. And I'll still just have it on either everybody or whoever's singing, rather than bringing them up and down literally verse by verse, which is what you can do when you have time and you have someone sitting in this seat.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's everything. I can talk about turning everything off if you'd like.
Yeah, we should do that.
Great. So yeah, we've got everything. We've gone through. We went to 257. They finished the song Tremble. Great. I don't usually add it at 258. That's the end, but I can just go to cue either 250, which is my entry cue, or 5, which they're the same cue. Boom, everybody's happy. Bring down all the stage lights.
And for video purposes, can you name our default cues, the numbers?
What do you mean?
Like 5 is normally an entry cue. 100 is normally the teaching cue. What other ones are the defaults?
Those are the two defaults.
Okay.
5 is the entry. 100 at 200 is classic.
Oh, gotcha.
Eric, the difference between the way I do it, I number them just so you could just hit go 250 through 251.
Yeah.
Eric has set, number 10 is the announcements. Q11 is the first song, Q21 is the next song, and he has links. So if you go to Q11 and you hit the go button, it'll go to announcements, which is Q10. I find that harder to remember. But so if you ever get stuck on, you know, one of these cues and you hit go and it doesn't go to the next one in order, that's why.
Okay.
If you guys want to adopt that philosophy, you're
To
welcome
start
to.
a cue list, how do I get my blank page going?
When it boots up, you'll see this.
Okay.
You'll just see the last set of cues.
Okay.
You do need to be aware that there are different sets of cues. So sometimes Eric will create a new scene for Christmas or Easter or just a new weekend.
That's these guys.
Yeah, so if your cues aren't there from last week, it's probably because you're on a different sheet. So if I go to cue 214/200, that's the classic we used before, and here are a bunch of ones that I used for a few weekends.
Okay.
But those all got, you know, they're saved, but you have to go back to them. There's a way to load it. I forget if it's load cue or something like that.
Okay.
But that will happen sometimes because if you hit go, it'll still go back to 215
Okay.
unless you hit load. Yeah, and so you know you can make a card that has defaults and make sure we don't change those. But then I'll make a new set every week. So if this week was 250, next weekend I'll start at 260, 261, 262. And if there's a background that's the same color, I can load it and put it into the next weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so shutting down.
So shutting down, you hit lamps off. You have
do
to
that one again?
confirm. Yeah, you click lamps off and it'll ask you to please confirm and you hit it again. And it should turn off all of the spots, but it will take a second.
All right.
And the goal is you would give it a few minutes to cool down because there are fans in there that are running until you turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually do that first and then go, you know, set the house preset, go turn off the TVs, come back, make sure all these are down.
And then go turn off the...
Turn off the board first.
Oh, gotcha.
I like to make sure we're on Q5 just so that, you know, it comes back down and up at the same place. And then afterwards, you just bring down the master fader. You hear your beautiful sound. You hit the power button, and it says, do you really want to power down? You can click OK or just hit the button again.
Okay.
But make sure you hit it again because sometimes you'll think you hit it again and you didn't actually.
Gotcha.
So there you go. And then we go back and turn off those dimmers. I don't normally turn them off after Saturday. I just leave them for
Gotcha.
Sunday. But I'll turn them off after Sunday.
Awesome.
Yeah.